I'm joined now by Dendi with Navi. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Are you tired after the last couple of days? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, thank you.
I noticed your family's here. They've been roaming around. Are you excited to see the documentary, and how are they feeling about seeing it as well when we show it tomorrow night?
Oh yeah, we're all pretty much excited to see it, actually, yeah.
Do you notice how much the crowd goes nuts for you and Navi? Do you feed off of that energy pretty well?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's a great feeling. It's just, you can't find it anywhere else, yeah.
Well, we're excited to have you in Seattle. What are your thoughts going up against TongFu?
Oh, we have a lot of thoughts, yeah. We have a lot of different plans, how it will go, and I hope you will enjoy it.
I think we will, definitely.
Yep.
Thanks for chatting with us. Good luck, Dendi.
Thank you.
Clement Ivanov, Puppy, Estonia, Tartu.
Alexander Dashkevich, Hvost, Kiev, Ukraine.
Kurozale Takhazomi, Kuroki, Berlin, Germany.
Gleb Lepatnikov, Fanik, Kharkiv, Ukraine.
Данил Шутин, Денди, Lviv, Ukraine.
Navi, 2011 champions, and they've got a run to the finals here, and they could do it. We'll see if they can. Got to take down their first opponents, though, in just a moment, which will be TongFu in the best of three. Hvost, Kurokai, Puppy, Dendi, and Fanik. So it is a slightly different team, but they've got some of the cores still in there, and they're very scary. You know, the Navi story hasn't really come up a lot because obviously they played on the first day. They did have all yesterday off, and now they play today. So they should be really well rested and also well prepared. What do you think they're going to bring to this match?
A little stat on Dendi, whenever he says in a pre-match interview, when he says, I hope you'll enjoy, that means they're going to pick Pudge.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm expecting a Pudge to be picked in this series. Navi likes to play aggressive, and they don't mind putting on a show despite playing with everything at stake, basically. And they've been down this road before. They've won TI1 with the Pudge pick. They've played Pudge at TI2 as well, and they went into the grand final. I think we can very well expect the Pudge pick to come out of them. It wouldn't surprise me the least bit, the way they utilize it, and I'm just very excited about this matchup. TongFu was my favorite team from China going into this tournament, and I'm gonna have a really hard time predicting a win on this.
I mean, along with the Pudge, they utilize Potom a lot on Funnick too. Funnick usually does this trick with the Ancients where he buys Quelling Blade on Windrunner, Priestess of the Moon. I think he's even done it with Tinker, perhaps, and just jungles at level 1. Sometimes he goes on the Dire side, he cuts the trees on top of the cliff in the middle camp, and on the Radiant side, he cuts the trees around the Ancients and creeps those. And a lot of teams have been trying to mess with him because 3 heroes can easily zone him out in the lane, but it's really difficult to contest that sort of position. You have to like run uphill most of the time, and then your mid hero can rotate. And we've seen teams try and ward it, but Funnick still usually tries and find some sort of farm. So I hope that TongFu has a solution for this.
Bruno, what can you tell us about Navi so far?
Well, we were talking about Dendi so far. We had an interview with him, and I decided, okay, this player is kind of good, right? So I'm going to check how good he is. And just to give you an idea of heroes in general, the hero with the highest global win rate in the game in all professional tournaments is Wisp with 59% win rate. So 59% of the time Wisp wins. So I got Navi's all of the heroes that are above 20 games. So he played 20 or more games with. We have Pac, 84% win rate. Queen of Pain, 74% win rate. Templar Assassin, 75% win rate. Patch, the fan favorite, 77% win rate. And he's really a noob at Storm with only 73% win rate. Those are his heroes. Those are the heroes he normally play. How do you beat the odds when he's so good?
I mean, sometimes they do draft him a Beastmaster, a Dragon Knight he's been playing a lot recently, and his Magnus too. And those are kind of weaker. S4 has sort of the same thing. I think S4 is a better Magnus, but if then he gets one of those heroes, his Puck is phenomenal. I think it plays very well into their playstyle too. Flashy plays, he kind of baited out a lot of spells, and early aggression.
All right, well, we'll see what they're going to be able to get, but of course their opponents are the ones that are going to decide what heroes they're going to want to remove from Navi, and their opponents for this match are TongFu.
And we're back with our friend Josh, and we're talking to King J of TongFu ahead of your match with Navi. How are you feeling right now?
问你打 Navi 之前感觉如何？
感觉非常好，因为今天精神状态跟之前的病都已经完全消除了，所以今天状态非常好。
He says they feel really good, especially because earlier they had some sicknesses and whatnot, but today they've got past all that, so all of them, they feel in top shape.
You've been playing the game for many years now, and I'm curious what it feels like as a player to see Dota play get to this level, and not just with the international, but all over the world with so many people watching and playing.
说你作为一名比较资深的选手，然后能看到 Dota 2做到今天这个地步，就是全球这么多观众来看你们比赛，感觉如何？
感觉非常棒，因为之前的话，可能 Dota 1在国内可能会受关注度比较多一点，但 Dota 2的话，让我们中国的选手在世界上有更多的机会展露自己，所以我觉得非常棒。
He says, feels great. It's awesome to see that people all over the world are watching, and especially in China. Maybe in the past, more people focus on Dota 1, but with Dota 2, people in China are starting to pay attention too, because it's given Chinese players and teams such a huge stage to show themselves.
That's great. King Jae, thank you, and good luck today.
王娇 ，banana， 中国开封。
陈志豪，豪，中国广州。周洋 ，King J， 中国上海。
张盼，木，中国武汉。
王兆辉，山生，中国湖南。
TongFu, one of the teams representing China here, and so far they've had a great tournament, but let's talk about last year as well. Last year they actually finished up in 7th, 8th place, actually losing to DK, so already being in the upper bracket semi-finals, they've surpassed last year's performance, so they are definitely a better team this year already. If I was a new viewer and I didn't know much about TongFu, because I don't watch the BTS stream, you know, because it's just amateur hour over there, you know, what would you want to be able to tell me about TongFu going into this match before we throw it to the game?
Do you want to take that one, Ben, or should I?
You can go for it.
Well, TongFu is really, really good in utilizing melee initiate heroes such as Panda, Clockwork Goblin. We've seen the jungler Doombringer a lot as well, and those are some of the things that makes them stand out. They really, really want to put on a lot of aggression. We've seen a lot of these Chinese teams put a lot of emphasis on melee strength initiators, and that's something TongFu just does really well.
Okay. Well, that's sums it up pretty nicely for us, because actually the bans and picks are already on the way. So we're throwing straight to the game. So this is the other upper bracket semi-final match. The winner of this will play Alliance. That will be, I believe, for tomorrow. But it's a huge game. A lot on the line. It's a best of 3. It's TongFu versus Na'Vi. Best of luck to both teams. Over to the hall for the game.
Na'Vi versus TongFu.
Greetings and salutations, Dota fans. We're back for our second series of the day here at the International 2013. A best of 3 on the way in the upper bracket semifinals, Rascal. We have been looking forward to this. You and I talked about it coming in, the possibility of these two teams meeting on this stage like this. Of course, the winner will advance to meet Alliance in the upper bracket finals. TongFu, one of the biggest dark horses in the entire tournament, a team that for the most part has flown under the radar a little bit, but extremely talented, and now facing their toughest test in Na'Vi.
I can't wait for the match personally. And the thing about watching Na'Vi is unpredictability. You never really know what they're going to be bringing to the table, but TongFu have kind of been feeling the same way. They've had some unconventional picks themselves, so both teams kind of well-versed, at least in terms of flexing their draft capabilities here so far at TI3. But Na'Vi, they start off with a Chen and a Rubik, so Kuro is going to get one of the heroes that he is absolutely famous for, and I don't know about you, but I love watching him play this hero.
Oh, man. Whenever you see Kuro on Rubik, he plays Rubik just a different way. It's something you can't quite put your finger on. He just has such a sense of the hero. He's always in the right position, and the way he builds the Rubik is always mobility-based. He always wants a mobility item that will allow him to make plays in ways that most players can't. And when you put that with the Chen, another hero, a playmaker in his own right, but in a different way, you put that hero in Puppy's hands, you have two extremely experienced players on two of the best heroes in their entire hero pool. Could not think of a better core for Na'Vi to lead off with.
I couldn't agree more. And the thing that's interesting here is just the way that the draft changes, even between the series. For instance, the last series that we just had a chance to watch, we saw a lot of Alchemist, of course.
Yeah.
And that hero has been predominant throughout the entire tournament, I would say, and just in terms of either sending a mid, being able to stop these kind of early game aggressive pushes. Of course, he still is available, but I'm kind of leaning towards TongFu would probably be the ones to take him here, if not. But we can see TongFu already banning out the puck as well, so that's another hero that Dendi has pretty good success with. I'm pretty sure they actually had 70-something% win rate on that hero whenever he plays it, so definitely not bad to take it out if you're TongFu.
Absolutely, and waiting to see what Dendi's going to be running out of that mid position. He's really well known for a number of heroes. Been playing a lot of DK lately, and already with the Chen and the Rubik pickup, that's going to be something that TongFu's going to have to be conscious of. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see them ban the DK here in this the 4th ban slot, just because of how well he would function in a push lineup with the Chen. And nope, they're actually going to take out the OD. So Na'Vi now going to have that open to them if they want. Obviously, the DK again, just a great core hero. You can stick in mid. TongFu has yet to show us their mid, but when you pick that DK before the enemy team picks their mid, sometimes they can counter pick it really effectively. But with a Shadow Demon and a Darkseer, those two heroes, as good as they are, aren't exactly... I mean, the Shadow Demon can roam really well, but it's going to be based on what TongFu wants to do in the early game. Do they want to sit back and just kind of ease their way in, or are they going to start to pressure lanes very early in the preliminary stages? You and I watched TongFu a lot, and we learned there that they are very flexible in that regard.
Well, TongFu have left themselves wide open. I think that's pretty much the only thing you can say in terms of their first two.
Yeah.
If you look at Darkseer and you think Na'Vi, do they want to go for the DK here? Do they want to try to go for that Death Poly sort of, we're going to push into your tier 1 towers, try to assume map control? They're actually going to go with a Mirana. Wow. So it looks like Funnick is going to get a chance to play that, and he definitely plays a spectacular one. But going back to TongFu's draft for a second, it's amazing to have a Darkseer because of his versatility, and Shadow Demon is one of the supports who can not only rotate during the early game, but he makes a semi-good transition into the later game phases. I'd say he's sort of like a Crystal Maiden, less lane control, but he makes very, very good transitions into the mid-late game. And now TongFu, they're actually going to go with a Spectre, and honestly, I like that quite a bit, just because Na'Vi, up until now, not a whole lot of damage.
Right.
I mean, they have a Chen, of course.
Oh, hello!
There we go.
The big man makes an appearance, and there are people on their feet. Dendi Pudge going to be joining us here in Benaroya Hall, and yeah, I think that's good. That right there might be one of the biggest cheers we hear the entire series. Just the pick.
I'm just saying, Melk's stats were correct. Maybe we need a new stat man, honestly, because he called it. He said, if he ever says you're going to enjoy the match, we're going to get a chance to see Pudge. And the thing about Pudge is, it fits Navi's style so well. They love playing aggressive. They love trying to get the map control early on. It actually goes fairly well with the Chen, because once you get those towers, just the looming threat of a Pudge being in fog, going for a hook, it forces you to play so defensively. And the thing is, against TongFu's lineup right now, if any of those heroes gets hooked, it's very hard to save them. They don't have a whole lot of heroes who can react fast. They don't have any blink initiators to go in. They don't have like a Beastmaster to counter or anything. More or less, they have a team who is kind of all around. There's no initiator just yet, so we'll see what TongFu's answer to this is.
I'll tell you what, man, if I'm TongFu right now, I am fearing a Pudge that has a permanent smoke from Mirana every time it's off cooldown. How do you even begin to cope with it? I mean, just look at this lineup. Even before the Pudge pick came out, was going to point out, I mean, with the Spectre pickup, that's a hero who obviously has to farm and has to farm hard, can be a monster in the late game, but she does like to show up to fights early. You can build an aggressive lineup, and oftentimes should build an aggressive lineup around a Spectre just so she can have a little bit room not only to farm, but to put aggression on whenever she haunts in, whenever she realities in after haunt. But now Na'Vi taking it to a whole new level. Again, you've got Chen, and an innately aggressive hero. Rubik, as we talked about, played by Kuro, one of the most aggressive Rubik players on the planet. You're going to have Mirana, again, an innately aggressive hero, and a Pudge that's going to have a perma smoke coming up every time her ultimate's off cooldown. TongFu, they're not going to be intimidated, not saying that, but looking at this, they have to be so concerned about what they're able to do to stabilize things in the first 20 minutes.
They're not allowed to make a whole lot of mistakes.
Yes.
That's more or less what Navi's lineup is meant for, because if they get going, it's going to be an unstoppable train, and it's very, very tough to come back from something like that. On the flip side, TongFu have Jakiro, Darkseer, Shadow Demon, probably one of the best trifectas in terms of taking team fights, setting up ganks. Disruption into Ice Path is very easy to execute. You can get the big vacuums on and such as well. So Gyrocopter is going to be the last pick. I like this mainly because of the fact that TongFu actually could have still taken this, because Gyrocopter could have very easily laned mid against the Pudge, and Rocket Barrage, when you get hooked, sometimes it's a little bit shaky, and if the Pudge is actually going to be able to get the kill, and you might be able to force him back, and of course Call Down with TongFu's team would have been a nightmare to deal with, but it looks like their last choice is going to be Clockwork, another hero who synergizes well, Cogs and Vacuum, clearly a potent combination, then you partner that with Shakiro's Macropyre. TongFu have a very scary teamfight-oriented composition. Na'Vi, though, their pick potential and how scared sometimes you're going to have to play against their lineup, assuming that they can get these early game towers, it's going to be tough. This one's going to be really close to call.
Absolutely. I tell you what, it's going to be tough on the casters. Imagine how many hooks we're going to see by the time all's said and done. But yeah, I mean, taking a look at TongFu's lineup, I 100% agree with you. These two lineups work in basically the same way, just in complete opposite fashions. Na'Vi is going to be predicated largely on playmakers from single positions. Going to be looking to hit arrows from Mirana. Going to be looking to hit the hooks from the Pudge, obviously. Going to need Kuro's Rubik to be on point, and rarely is it off point. Then you have the Gyrocopter, which does give them some much-needed magic damage, some much-needed DPS, and of course the safety belt that the Gyrocopter can be in the late game. TongFu, though, like you said, they have a dream team of synergy, a dream team of just putting everything together in one beautiful chain of initiation, vacuum into Cogs with the wall and then the Ice Path and the whole thing. And if they can make that happen against Na'Vi, they're going to be able to take these fights very early as well. So this is a game that is either going to go very, very, I would imagine it's going to be a game that's going to go very, very late, or we're just going to see one team get rolling and the other will have no chance to recover. Looks like both teams are going to be occupying different parts of the map to begin. So we'll go ahead and run through our lineups. No surprise to see Puppy here on the Chen. Going to have Gyrocopter played by Havost, as mentioned. Kuroki on the Rubik, one of his favorite heroes. Funnick, of course, a phenomenal Mirana, will be handling her this time. And then the Pudge, going to be handled by Dindy. On the other side of the river, we've got Hao playing on our Spectre the Darkseer, going to be handled by King J. Saw him in the interview earlier. Sansheng will be playing our Shadow Demon Shakiro, played by Banana and the Clock. The other guy with the hooks, gonna be played by Moo. The horn sounds, and we're underway for game one of this best of three semifinal upper bracket matchup. TongFu taking on Na'Vi.
I can't wait, man. I honestly can't wait. Every time I get to see a Dendy Pudge, you gotta love it, right? So TongFu, during the early game, obviously looking to be as stable as possible, but they have a perfect lineup to do that. And obviously, Na'Vi are not contesting the top lane right now. Funnick is cutting down pretty much every tree because he doesn't like trees, I guess, and he, of course, is doing the Ancients. So it's going to work out pretty well for him. It's not ideal, but it's pretty much the only thing he can do. I think that the Gyrocopter pick, after thinking about it a bit more, it's even better than originally thought because it's one of the only heroes on Na'Vi who actually makes a BKB. And against TongFu, you kind of really want a BKB against their Wombo combo style of play. And mid, we're going to have Clockwork versus the Pudge. This one's pretty even. The thing about melee heroes, that we just saw it right there, is the fact that Cogs is very, very annoying for Dendy. So I think Moo might actually be able to edge him out.
Yeah, this mid matchup's really interesting because these are two heroes who obviously want to get a good start. Pudge does have some laning troubles against a lot of popular heroes that often wind up in this mid, and we can see Sansheng is here now just to help Moo out, just to try and keep Dindy down a little bit more than anticipated. Funnick, as you mentioned, he's doing his thing on the Priestess right up on the edge. But a Clockwork, and we talk about this all the time when you see a Clock. Very often the hero winds up in an off lane. He can be very relevant so long as he does get active and is able to catch up in levels and gold eventually. But when he gets a mid matchup like this where he's actually going to be able to get some early farm, he's actually going to be able to get a very quick 6, he's going to have the option of staying here a little bit longer. Basically, I would imagine he's going to base his rotations almost entirely on when the Pudge decides to start roaming around as well. So he's going to be in a great shape to counter-initiate, not just on the Pudge, but on the team as a whole. So without a doubt, TongFu is not going to be completely broken up about the way these lanes have worked out. They have free farm just the same as Havost.
And especially with a Spectre late game, it's very, very scary because at some point, those Haunt illusions are going to do absolute work to heroes like Chen, the Rubik especially. They don't have any innate escape mechanisms, and it gets to a point where just the Haunt itself can almost kill a support. So depending on how good a farm the Spectre is going to be getting in the top lane is going to be extremely important. And of course, you can say the same thing for the Gyrocopter. And Gyrocopter is more of a mid-game fighter. Nowadays, Spectres build for mid-game, but I think their innate ability isn't as good as what a Gyrocopter brings, especially with things like cooldowns. So we'll see how aggressive TongFu want to play it. They have the capability of doing both. That's what makes their team great, and we are going to see a smoke mid.
There's the cogs go down. Kuro's going to be there as well. There's Mu, the dual breath, catching him out, and Dindy draws first blood as the rest of the team arrives. Sanxing trying to make a run. There's a leap from Funnick. Funnick pursuing out. Ice Path misses. Dindy has a hook in 2 seconds, disrupts himself. Very well executed from Sanxing. Now the dual breath onto Kuro, slowing them down as they retreat. Looks like things will stabilize. Was just going to mention, with so many heroes hanging around for Na'Vi, and you knew that they were going to take a shot at Dindy sometime very soon whenever you just have how effective these gankers are in the Jakiro and in the Shadow Demon. Knew it was coming, but first blood goes the way of Na'Vi.
That's one nice thing about having the Mirana doing the Ancients, is that she happened to be level 2. And even at level 1, you can technically get arrow because you know no one from TongFu is really going to be messing with you over there anyway, and all you're doing is auto-attacking the Ancients. So he's so close that he can get there instantly, throw an arrow, turn it around, and get the first blood for Na'Vi. So pretty creative use of the hero, honestly, and Funnick actually gets like 1 lane creep of experience before he's forced back again to go back to his Ancients. But I really do feel like during the early game,
and we're going to have a hook that connected Mu. And Dindy going toe-to-toe in the Thunderdome. Dindy's going to have to run. Mu right on his tail. Will get the kill. Here's Chen. Puppey trying to chase him out. Unable to catch him. So 1 for 1. This mid-matchup breaks even.
I was just mentioning, I think the early game matters a lot more for Na'Vi than it does for TongFu, because TongFu's team fight is always going to be so strong, and since there is only 1 hero on the side of Na'Vi that goes for the BKB, it's going to be tough. But Funnick going to get caught by Mu.
And the cogs not quick enough, able to leap to safety. Good thing too, Sanxing was right around the corner, so Funnick makes it back to safety. He'll go back to work on these Ancients.
And bottom lane looks like they're trying to pressure a tiny bit. And the thing about TongFu's lineup as well is with the Darkseer, they can counter push just as well as somebody like Na'Vi. So looks like King J is going to be teleporting down, but he's only level 3 right now, so only level 2 Ion Shell. I don't think he's going to be able to stop the pressure that's coming out currently. And it looks like Na'Vi should be able to potentially push this tower.
Puppey's made his way over, using his haste rune to run a little goalie, run a little defense, keep King J zoned out. They will pull back for the moment, but we'll see if they're going to try to get active and pushing the tower again. We do see Dindy's picked up a smoke, so very possible he's not going to be hanging around too much longer. And yeah, looks like they will go ahead and try to bring this down. The creeps this time, though, pulled back by King J, so we'll be able to delay it a little bit. We're 5 minutes in. We got 1 kill apiece on the mid heroes, Clock and Pudge. Both Pudge almost level 6, halfway there. Mu already level 6. He's a full level ahead at this point. The help he got from the supports really helping to hold Pudge down just a little bit.
And holding the Pudge down is good in a sense, but Pudge is actually a hero who's fairly good from behind, because as long as he gets levels, he doesn't necessarily care about the CS so much. It's all about landing the hooks. If you land the initiation, that's pretty much the only important thing that you have to do on the hero. And we've seen Dendy hooks before, and Dendy, we're going to have to trust this game for Na'Vi in terms of landing them. But Mu mid, he's definitely doing work here. He's 29-9 compared to Dendy, who's sitting at 20-4, and he is maxing battery assault here. Here we go mid.
Oh, there's the arrow to follow it up. Dindy's right there, and Mu will end up dropping for sure. That's another stack going to Dindy. Hal, though, has come in. He's going to try to secure the kill. Jakiro coming from the low ground. Can't get in range, and Hal taking a lot of damage. He's going to pull back. Ice Path does lock Dindy down, and the dual breath going to be enough to force the big boy back at least a little while. Hal getting very greedy, makes it away with less than 100 HP.
That's actually still a really good kill. Even trading a 1-for-1, now Dendy's 7. He'll be able to either go back to base or apparently smoke up, and Puppey's guarding an invisibility rune down here for him, so they might go for banana here.
He's going to roll over. He's got his bottle, of course, and he will go ahead and activate it. Gets the 1 free bottle charge after activating it. So he's going to have to execute this if he does want to use it right now with very little health. We'll see if he's just going to use it to maybe go for a little free damage. Nope, he's going to bypass mid entirely. Looks like Sanxing, or whoever the unlucky soul happens to be occupying this top lane, going to be the target. Got about half time left on the invis. Everywhere else on the map relatively quiet. The bottom tower is going to take some creep damage, but we'll keep an eye on Dindy. Dindy trying to set up shop. Sanxing, this is an awful place for him to be. He's just going to walk up and dismember him. All he has to do, and didn't even have to throw a hook. There's a hook from Mu! Catches Dindy out, down he goes. Here comes Hal. But Funnick has leap at his disposal, doesn't even have to use it, but yeah, you knew that was going to be a risk that he was taking, rolling out with the Invis rune. Of course, you can only bottle once after you activate the Invis, so he had to roll up with little health, and very good reaction. Mu totals another kill.
And trading the mid for support, I think TongFu are going to be more than pleased with themselves for that one. So it's 3-3, and as I mentioned before, Navi's early game, it's much more important because these heroes like Pudge, yeah, they can play from behind, but that doesn't necessarily mean you want to all the time, and Dendi's CS is still suffering pretty badly here, and if Mu is able to teleport and counter gank like that every time, Dendi used a lot of time walking from bottom rune all the way to top lane. And when you're mid and you're a Pudge, you do want to continue to get experience until you get to at least level 10, 11, 12, start getting some points in a Flesh Heap so you can actually tank up. But Navi, of course, still doing pretty well. Havos is sitting at the top of the CS right now. He's 55 right now for 56 for 14, excuse me, so.
Mu on the low ground. Dendi makes his way over. Nope, not going to be able to catch him. He does have full range hooks, so range not so much of a problem. There's a smoke right off the courier. He's going to make his way back up to top. Kuro caught out with an ice path, and it looks like Banana actually got telekinesis up to the ward spot. Poor guy going to have to wait on the TP. Hang on. Dendi. Oh, Hao is so low. Dendi doesn't see him. He might be able to get eyes on him. Is he going to stop? He'll spot Sansheng first. Sansheng sees the big man. There's a disruption to buy time. The arrow's going to shoot south. Here comes Dendi. Sansheng trying to TP away. Not going to work. Another stack going to Dendi. Funny thing is, hang on in the bottom. We've got a fight that's broken out. They're trying to kill Banana, and they will get it. Mu shows his face, but decides against it. And the crowd already getting behind one of the biggest fan favorite squads in the world. 6-3, Navi doubling up TongFu at this point.
Early game execution, man. That's pretty much all that matters for the team right now. And we got 3 people bottom. Looks like they might try to pressure the tier 1 here. The Darkseer is still kind of behind in levels. He's only level 6. He actually just hit level 6, and he even put a point into wall at that point. So TongFu will be contesting this bottom tier 1. They even smoke up to do so, so a lot of influence going to be put down here. There is a call down, probably. Actually, 5 seconds left on the cooldown for Havos, so I think they're more than happy to take this fight.
Here we go. There's a disruption to lead things off. That's on Havos. Walls down already. Ice Path right on top of it. Havos down to half health. Here comes the call down, though. The reinitiation. Puppy there trying to help out, but the damage output just too high, and the hook from Mu. Gonna seal the deal. Puppy trapped inside. Battery assault. There's a hook. Dendi showing up just at the south. Found Sansheng with the Dragon Claw. And Dendi gonna have his hook off cooldown in 1 second. Is he gonna toss it? There it is! Mu brought back to the high ground. He's got the Hell Bear Smasher to help him. Does he have the damage trapped inside? Kuro comes over to help. Hao with a DD going to town. And Dendi might try to deny himself. Nope, kill goes to Hao. Now it's Kuro's turn. However, Havos back up. Ice Path locks Kuro down and cleaned up. Double kill for the carry of TongFu. Hao gonna try to TP out. No, sir! Denied by Navi. 11-7 as the fight finally reaches its conclusion. We're at 10.5 minutes in. Looking at the gold, we can see Navi has opened up a bit of a lead. 1,500, just about 2,500 experience.
Man, the crazy thing about this is think of the difference in yesterday's games that we did in comparison to this, the longest game in Dota 2 history, and now 18 kills at 11 minutes in. This is the kind of pace of game that I think that most people would probably want to see, especially when you're talking about teams like Navi. But TongFu, they get the deny on the bottom tier 1. So that's definitely good for them, not giving away any extra gold. Their Spectre now has drums, and of course on top of the phase boots, and she can go for the Radiance or maybe Vitality booster. Burning actually did that in this previous series.
Sansheng flirting with disaster up here in this top lane, and Dendi inching his way. Oh my goodness! Oh, how? That's a bad timing. If nothing else, looks like there's some kind of an issue, obviously. The fine folks from Valve bouncing into the booth to make sure everything's squared away. And look at Dendi's face. Not any happier about it than the crowd happens to be. But right now, man, Navi is looking great. They are really applying the game plan we knew they wanted to draft. They're making the map their own. You can tell what's happening with TongFu now is reactionary Dota, not deliberate Dota. It's Navi, the team who is really setting the pace so far.
And it's really nice to be able to force TongFu to react, because if they ever get a chance to initiate with the Clockwork and the Jakiro and the Darkseer in position, they can take the fights really whenever they want, and that kind of AoE combo is devastating. To be honest, Puppey not going straight for the mech, it could end up hurting them a little bit just because of how much damage potential they actually do have in these engagements, but Na'Vi have just been executing so well. They always kind of know where TongFu is going to be. I'd say the bottom fight that we just saw was the one exception to that, and it was a bit of a drawn-out fight where I would obviously say that TongFu came out a tiny bit ahead just because they were able to deny the tower. But they still traded kills. And of course, fortuitous CD from Hao was cool too. But, I mean, the game is still very, very even. The later the game goes, though, I think there's more opportunities for TongFu to pull out these big fights. And the later the game goes, too, we talk about all the time, when those fights actually happen, the impact is much greater.
No, I agree with you entirely. Like, when I look at TongFu's lineup, they have so many heroes that just never really fall off. Like, if a Pudge gets behind, he's a hero who can start to feel like a little bit of dead weight. A Hook's always nice, but if he's not dominating the map, if he's not able to pick off solo kills on his own and doesn't have at least a couple of items, once you get into the late game, he can begin to feel a little bit irrelevant. You have a Chen. As good as Chen is, he does have a best buy date. Once you get past 40 minutes, his efficacy does begin to fall off a little bit. Hand of God's always amazing. Obviously, you get a mech up. If he can get a Scepter, then of course you can extend that time a little bit. But then you look at TongFu's lineup. You have a Darkseer. Darkseer never falls off. He never gets bad. He's just as relevant at minute 61 as he is at minute 1. Shadow Demon, the same story. Jakiro maybe falls off just because BKBs come into play. His damage begins to kind of become irrelevant a bit. But then you have the Clockwork. Clockwork cogs work, they don't do as much relative damage, but they disrupt the fight the same way they do at minute 1 as they do at 61. So you have that Spectre, that late game monster through Dispersion, through Desolate, that just becomes a little too big to manage. And as good as the Gyrocopter happens to be, I just can't see Gyro out-carrying a Spectre with this kind of supporting cast that TongFu has assembled around him.
Especially once you see that Radiance come up on the Spectre. That's where things really start to take a turn. Just that residual damage alone, between Haunt Images hitting you, the Radiance burn, if you actually target the Spectre as well, you're going to be talking about Dispersion on top of that. It can really deal a whole heck of a lot of damage. And because of the Shadow Demon, focusing down one hero isn't really that difficult if you're on the side of TongFu. Of course, their forte isn't necessarily single target focus, but it can be. And you're also going to have the Shadow Demon's ultimate, of course, to be able to purge through the BKB to make sure that the Gyrocopter is not going to be able to stay in range to do his full extended damage. So, of course, it's still really early on. It's only 11.5 minutes into the game. And the first tower, even though it did get denied, it opens up the map a bit more for Na'Vi to start moving around. They want to prioritize going perhaps mid. Whenever they have Mirana ultimate, taking team fights is going to be to their advantage. Clearly, it forces TongFu to always have sentries down. And that can be really scary because in conjunction with smoke, and then you have Mirana ultimate on top of that, there are a lot of ways that Na'Vi can move around the map that I feel like TongFu don't really have the same capability. They have a Clockwork for initiation and a Spectre, which is nice, but their supports, for the most part, aren't really that mobile. So you can get caught out of position really easily if you're TongFu. But then again, if TongFu are ready, they can react very well to tower pushes. You have a Clockwork TP in, you can hook, you can cog, and then you just have your Spectre use Haunt, and then the team fight pretty much goes from there. That's exactly what happened bottom, and that's why Na'Vi were actually forced so far back. But again, it was a bit of a dive by the Spectre. Ultimately, I think, though, probably worth it.
Taking a look back at the Gyrocopter pick and how that's going to end up matching up with the Spectre, another factor to take into account. Flat cannon, I mean, obviously that's what defines late game Gyrocopter, being able to melt down supports in 2 or 3 shots. But just again, looking at TongFu's lineup, they don't really have a super meltable lineup outside of the Shadow Demon. Darkseer tends to tank up as the game goes longer just by nature of how the hero works. Jakiro actually has really good strength gain for a support, so the later the game goes, he actually becomes much more survivable than he is early. Then you have the Clockwork. And Clockwork, of course, a hero that can survive, is built for survivability in many, many cases. So again, just to drive the point home, when you look at Na'Vi's lineup, it's a phenomenal lineup that's going to be very good for a very long time. But if you're TongFu, I think they do have that feeling of comfort, that feeling of, okay, if things get out of control, let's just not let the Pudge take the game over. Let's play safe. Let's not get caught out by Mirana's ultimate. Let's go late.
Yeah, exactly. And TongFu, with that lineup, late is just as scary as it's going to be pretty much the entire game. Yeah, the hook's off the mark, so unfortunate for Dendi.
Hook doesn't land. The crowd not too happy about it either. He did have help from Banana from behind if you wanted. Speaking of help, there's another hook that's going to be off. Kuro there to help him out. And looks like they're going to rotate over. Yeah, Banana just dropped to Sentry. And Dindy gonna go fishing again. Elsewhere on the map, all's quiet, so we'll focus on the hero that we know everybody wants to watch, at least for the moment. He's gonna have a couple of targets, maybe 3 if King J decides to make his way over. Here we go. Gonna drop himself a lane ward. Very well placed, and just look at how terrified these two are. They are not coming anywhere near the reach of that hook.
Well, for the time being, this is still a bit of a dangerous situation because, like I said, TongFu can react to this so fast. The Spectre's bottom, but Hao has Haunt right now, so it could be a bit of a risk if Na'Vi want to dive. They clearly want the tower. This is one of the more important ones.
And very nice play from Mu. There's going to be the Spectre Haunt. Havos is caught out. Hao comes in, hits him with a Spectral Dagger. Mirana's ultimate has him invisible for now, and they're trying to track him down. Havos, very little health. And the Cogs go down and knock him into the Roche pit. Havos goes to hide, and now they spotted him. And he's going to try to deny himself on Roshan, most likely, and not going to happen. Now the re-engagement as the arrow connects, but nothing there to follow it up. Up at top, looks like it might have been a little trading of the paint, but not much else. So a very nice kill going the way of TongFu, and he actually bought back.
Yeah, that's a bit interesting. I thought when he bought back, he was just going to go top because he knew the Spectre didn't have Haunt. But he TP'd mid to farm, and I don't really know if that was necessary per se, but he did it anyway, and Dendy just being a man behind the tier 1 on the side of TongFu's map, they're going to be forced out.
And Na'Vi really just basically pitching a 10 here in this top lane. They have been here for quite some time, Puppy there, and they're going to go ahead and send Dendy home. And let's see, can he do it? Oh, he got a creep. Got a creep. There he goes. Yep. Hang on, he should be coming by. Anyway, for those who don't know what he was attempting to do there, and hang on, Havos is engaged. Sanshin going to be melted down. Hao, telekinesis, and the follow-up. Hao's in trouble, will end up dropping. A double kill goes to Havos. Mu had a hook, but knew it was a lost fight if he went in. He's going to drop the Cogs to cover his escape, and Funnick jumps over them. Pounding away, he's going to hook away, but there's Kuro. Kuro might be in trouble. Hook on Mu! Saving Kuro. Nobody ever said Dindy didn't have a heart. Bailing out Kuroki. They take down the tower as well. 15-8, Na'Vi rolling, and they're not about to abandon this top lane yet.
Man, the Spectre dying hurts TongFu so much. They really need him to be alive, especially during those defense. But when you get caught out of position by a Rubik Gyro, the damage output is insane. He is maxing Rocket Barrage, or I should say it is max. So it's going to be doing a tremendous amount, especially when you're caught by yourself. And TongFu just were a little bit out of position. And that's something that Na'Vi, we talked about, they can capitalize on.
He perched the courier. Here comes the arrow. Hook's going to be off the mark, splits the wickets. King J disrupted to bail him out. Here he comes back out. Wall's going to go down and does not get it off. There's the death. Havos in trouble now. Called out, melting down Banana, and Chen got him home. Funnick is dominating indeed, and a hook from Dindy again. Finding yet another hero. Mu's going to come in. No idea how much trouble he's in. Kuro stole Ice Path, threw it out, and missed. Hao going to use Spectral Dagger to chase down Funnick. Funnick leaps away to safety. And Mu and Hao hanging around. There's the telekinesis. Will they engage? He's looking for a hook. There it is. Mu brought back in, beautiful chain on the hook into the Ice Path. Dendy thrilling the crowd and tallying the kills, finding hooks everywhere he looks and getting help from Kuro. Dual Ice Path, there's going to be a disruption. Sanshing telekinesis back. Dendy, whoa, no, never mind, hit a creep. Now he's in trouble, slowed down, but Chen able to get him back home. Here's a TP going to land into a melting Ice Path. Na'Vi forced to pull back. Kuro heads south while the rest head to the west. Looks like they are going to pursue it out, at least for the moment. Banana going to be surged and going to look to find someone. Kuro going to be the target. Good angle, good shot. Kuro locked down. Do they have the fall? That was a double Ice Path. And the hook right after the telekinesis. That's what we call an alley-oop, ladies and gentlemen. Dendy, the high-flying hook thrower. Gonna chase him down. One more. Why not? Can't even call it fishing. It's like fishing with dynamite. Mu's gonna re-engage though. Dindy right on top of him, doing the damage. Chen blows the heel. King J's there. Ice Path locks him down. One kill from the Rot, and King J now on the run. Dindy with a hook up in 5 seconds. You better run, King J. He's not missing today.
Unbelievable performance out of Dendy this game. Just I think he's got like, what, 80-something%?
What a great arrow following up the homing missile. Gets the kill. Will be trading 1 for 1, though. In the meantime, though, Na'Vi doing work and bringing down another tier 1.
Well, we talked about momentum and how well Na'Vi work under those circumstances, and I think this is a perfect example. They start landing hooks, they start landing arrows, telekinesis works fantastic with Pudge in general, and stealing Ice Path, that's going to be like one of the best feelings in the world if you're
One
Rubik.
more!
Oh, man.
Hello, Sansheng! Meet the Butcher! Dendi, at this point, we are 17 minutes into this match. He has 13 stacks on Flesh Heap.
Man, this is actually insane. TongFu have absolutely no map control anymore in the top lane or their woods, and you can see how aggressively Na'Vi are warding this now. There's not really a whole lot that TongFu can do, I think, in terms of fighting right now. They've just simply given away too many kills. I mean, 24 kills in less than 18 minutes into the game. Dendi is going to be nigh unkillable for a while, so problems now lie for TongFu. How do you recover at this point? You really have to defend your tier 2 mid especially. You don't want to give Na'Vi anything else because they can just as easily go for Roshan with their Chen and try to go into a more turtley style, because if you look at CS, the Gyro's sitting at 109 where the Spectre's at 68, and it's this far into the game. So yeah, Na'Vi looking really good.
Gyrocopter has finished his BKB, will be going with the Helm of the Dominator right afterwards, so Havost definitely taking his time, in great shape. We switch over to the net worth. We can see he sits not just on top, but quite convincingly on top. Almost a full 2 grand ahead of Hao. And, you know, at this stage of the game, once you get later, you'll see those gaps open up naturally. But at 2,000 ahead for him at this stage, not only has Dendi been playing amazing, Havost has somehow been managing to find farm everywhere he looks. And look at the gold graph. You're talking 5 digits short of 20 minutes. 500 gold per minute lead generated so far, much of it hooked out by Dendi.
I just want to say really quickly that the Ancienting Mirana has a Shadow Blade in phase at less than 19 minutes. He's 7-2-5, so Funnick has obviously had a spectacular performance as well. TongFu are sitting in their jungle with 4, and then the Spectre's farming the safe lane. That's how you know a team is scared, when you're basically sitting all together and there's simply nothing you can do if you split up, because you know that Na'Vi have been playing aggressive this entire time, and here they go again.
Funnick right there under cover of the Shadow Blade, going to be running a little bit of reconnaissance work. Whoa, comes up just short. The arrow connects nonetheless. They are going to try to follow it up, but looks like, yeah, a little too worried about it. No, we're going to have a reinitiation. Kuro's down on the backside of it. And Dendi forced to withdraw. TongFu finally finding a little bit of ground of their own. They're going to reinitiate. There's the Ice Path. Beautiful vacuum. Call down's going to connect as well. Havost there doing what damage he can. And TongFu going to be forced to skitter away. Havost tallies another kill. Now the hook. Moo gonna be dismembered, and mega kill streak for Dendi, continuing to do work. Bit of an awkward fight. Na'Vi kind of got pincered a bit there, re-engaged on from the back. They lost a couple, but end up getting 3 in return.
They're kind of flexing the power of Havost now and how farmed he actually is. He even has a gem on him right now. And with the BKB, TongFu's lineup simply don't have the physical damage to deal with him yet. The Spectre needs more items. How right now, he's saving up for the Relic. He's at 2,700, but until he gets that damage, it's not going to matter. Yeah, How going to be able to barely make it away, so nice for TongFu. They're not even giving up any towers. Like, Na'Vi haven't lost a single tier 1, and it's 20 minutes into the game with also 38 kills.
Tough to take down a tier 1 whenever you got a Pudge running around your jungle the entire time. I don't think how long's it been since they actually crossed the river? It has been a long time. We're 20 minutes into this game, and at this point, really, Na'Vi just has all the pieces they need. Pudge just finished up his 4 staff, so he's going to have that extra bit of mobility. And of course, for a player like Dendi, loves those kind of items. He's going to be in his comfort zone. You've got the arc boots already up. But more importantly, the mechanism up on Puppey. And this is where they can start to just slow push. They can switch gears if they really want to and just try to free the map up for Havost that way. But just knowing them and knowing Dendi, I would imagine, and Funnick for that matter, I would imagine they're going to want to keep playing the same style. Though for right now, we can see they are just kind of sitting back, hanging back at the moment. Dendi taking his time. He's got 2,200 health on the back of 14 stacks of Flesh Heap. And that's a scary thing. When we looked at him earlier, he only had 1 point in Flesh Heap. Now he has many more. We're going to have Havost taking a look at Hao here in mid. Homing missile on the way. He's got a lot of help behind him. And Na'Vi going to send a little bit of personnel. But just Dendi, there's a hook. Ooh, comes up just short.
Now, TongFu right now just sitting at their tier 2, just going, God, nobody get hooked, please, because as soon as that happens, it's going to be pretty much a lost fight. That's the problem, is like if somebody gets hooked on TongFu, no one can help them except for maybe Mu. And if Mu goes in to help him, he doesn't have a force staff or anything, so he's also fully committed to that fight. And on their side of the map, they don't have their mech finished yet. King J does not have a mech, and it's 22 minutes in on a Darkseer. That is actually very, very slow considering how the game's been going. Of course, they've been fighting a lot too, and he's died 5 times.
Oh, another hook. This time, letting his best buddy, the Dark Troll Summoner, do the hard work. Controlled by Puppey, of course. Wandered him around behind the tower, netted down the Jakiro, and they're going to get a tier 2 because of it. Only one outer tier tower remains. Marana, by the way, has picked up a gem, so any hope of vision for TongFu, a forlorn one.
Is under attack.
This is the whole purpose of the lineup. You just assume map control. If you have to fall back on the gyrocopter to the late game, it's still going to be very, very potent against TongFu's lineup. And it is a little bit execution-based. Of course, you have to land the hooks, you have to land the arrows, but let's be honest, they've pretty much been landing them both the entire game.
Oh, yeah.
So they're looking really, really good here in Game 1.
And Na'Vi going to hook up behind the creep wave, ready to lay into the last outer tier tower remaining. Looks like TongFu, they're going to react. They're going to do it slowly. Yeah, they're not even going to try. They're going to maybe try to trade. They do manage to bring one down. First tower down for Na'Vi at 22 minutes. But that's going to be the last outer tier tower down for TongFu at 23 minutes. And are they actually going to try to crack this? Darkseer on the other side has finished his mech, so there is an equalizer there. There's Kuro with the telekinesis. And the homing missile will connect. However, we actually got rocket flare. But there's a arrow. Shot, found no target. TongFu really just, how can they hope to cope with this? I mean, Sanxing's way out of position. Yeah, Na'Vi's just so far ahead right now, they can afford to kind of mess around here at the tier 3. One big hook could change this game. And hell, couldn't he just change it, could end it. TongFu playing so far back because they have to, and Havos has no problem sitting here using flat cannon to melt down the creeps. They've got the tier 3 down to half health. Arrow again going to be shot wide. But seriously, just look how far back they have to play just to be safe from all of the long-range potential of Na'Vi.
Yeah, normally you would say that TongFu's lineup is pretty good at turtling because you can walk up to the ramp and drop cogs, but if you do that, you run the risk of just getting blinked on by Rubik and dying to a hook. So you can't really even do that. TongFu are sitting so far back that they're not even in range of creeps right now. Looks like Zanshan goes forward though.
There's a disruption, and they tried to hook off of it. Mu though connects with just the illusion. Missed opportunity there for TongFu. Dendi now up front, and he wants a hook, and he'll take tower shots to do it. King J found. Now they're going to make him engage through the wall. Here we go. Battle breaks out. Call down's going to whiff. Mu catches a post out, but that lifesteal doing the work they needed to do. And the rest of TongFu forced back again. Hal tried to initiate in. Now the hand of God going to be blown. And the hook splits the wickets. Dendi went fishing, came up with nothing. The arrow doesn't connect either. He's way up there. Homing missile will maybe catch out. He's moving quick, but Funnick jumping in. There's a disruption. Kuro grabs Mu. Sanxing taking right-click damage. Havos going to be able to melt one down with Rocket Barrage. Double kill for Funnick. 3 are down for Na'Vi, for TongFu. The mech's going to be off cooldown in 10 seconds. So no question, they're going to be able to hold this out and bring down a set of racks. No map control for TongFu, soon to be one dead lane with the death of these racks. There's the mech use. King J's there, might want to try something. Actually got caught out, got stunned out. And yeah, he's already down to half health. Here we go, TP's coming in. Hal might want to fight. King J eyeing it. They actually didn't get the melee racks. And Puppey sticking his nose out a bit. The Wildkin will pay the price. Na'Vi not abandoning the ship quite yet though. BKB's off cooldown in just 5 seconds for Havos. They may want to fight again. Dendi with 2,700 health after adding an Ogre Club to his inventory. He's working on that BKB. Mithril Hammer there as well, playing some man mode Dota, just wandering around in front of the tier 3s. And the arrow will connect on Mu. Rax goes down, Dendi can't get the shot. Ice Path locked him down anyways. A nice one, got 2 of them. Funnick, just look how aggressive they are. Just running back, hitting hook that time, came up short. They are in such control that they are the one dictating the pace and the positioning inside of TongFu's base.
It's the threat of a Pudge, man. When a Pudge gets ahead, it is possibly one of the scariest heroes to play against. 1,300 range on hook. You can't be anywhere near him. There's just nothing you can do about it. So when you walk into the base of TongFu, you see like a Jakiro, a Clockwork, a Darkseer, you think, man, that's some pretty good base defense. But the reality is, you can't get close.
Nope.
You can't get close to use any of those abilities. Ice Path is probably the only one that you could potentially use and not get punished for it. But then, like I said, Kuro, he's got a Blink Dagger. So Na'Vi they're going to be able to get Roshan. Vos can actually solo it if he wants to. It would take a while, but he does have a Satanic now, and his farm is absolutely absurd. This is one of a very old style of strategies where it's kind of 4 protect 1, but it's 4 kill everyone, and the other guy just gets farm.
Pretty much how it's working out, too. Dindy has tallied 16 stacks on his flesh heap so far. An absolute monster of this game, quite obviously. A lot of the bit players, though, have really had such an impact. The synergy between these players, Funnick chaining up the arrows, and Kuro, the alley-oops, telekinesing them right into Dindy's hooks. I mean, that's the kind of thing that just defines this squad, and really we're getting a first-class clinic on how to make teamwork work with a very hard-to-execute game plan. This has just been a great showing from them. TongFu, just about 20,000 gold down now, and 20,000 experience. And yeah, this might be about their last chance, and even then, I mean, hell, the Radiance isn't even done on Spectre yet, has not even completed it. Hook gonna split the wickets again. Disruption, gonna catch one out. Ice Path is there. Evokes BKB's right out of it, though, using that flat cannon to melt down the supports. Taking a lot of damage. I'm a little surprised Na'Vi didn't decide to take the Roshan before another Hook gonna miss. Didn't decide to take Roshan before taking a run at this tier 2, or excuse me, this mid tier 3.
It is a safer choice, obviously. Like going for Roshan and then going mid, you could just send in Havost auto-attack the tower, and if he dies once, you just save your BKB and Satanic for the second life, and you can probably just win the fight based on that. But do they really even need it? I mean, they're massively ahead. It would take a very, very bad mistake coming out of Na'Vi for them to lose the next engagement. And they can slow siege the tower. They can just walk up and do what they're doing right now. And eventually, TongFu is going to have to react in some way. Otherwise, they're just going to slowly lose their base. And they're smoked up, so they can't see for hooks. Like, they're not going to have any vision, so that's definitely a smart idea. But Dendy's still going to throw him anyway, because, as he would say, you miss every hook you don't throw.
Here we go, Disruption to lead off, and the Force Staff gets him to the tail end of it. TongFu wants to engage out, and the wall, and a hook on the punch. Vacuum misses, brought him out of it. Mu lost behind, Puppey gonna be cleaned up, and Kuro caught out as well. TongFu showing signs of life as Hal tallies a double kill. And the fight definitely going their way this time around. They needed that in the absolute worst way without some kind of a turnaround. Hook gonna find Banana. Jakiro once again suffering Dindy's wrath. There's a call down. Will catch Mu. The arrow, though, shot a smidgen off the mark. So even though TongFu, again, showing us a pulse, it might just be a death rattle. Dindy he doesn't care. It's fine. Tower damage. Glyph it, don't care. Brings down the tier 3. Putting that meat tenderizer through its paces. Mu walks up now. Yeah, finally the hook's missed. Now he'll look to re-engage. Walked up and noped right out. Now we're going to have Havost caught out, going to BKB through it. His damage output is good enough to sit in man mode. There's a disruption to try and save Mu. King J surrounding him. There's the heal. Havost, Force staffed out. And Hal trying to find a target. Looked at Havost, looked at Punch. Good arrow going to lock down Mu. And the hook brings him back. Funnick trying to make a run. He's taking a lot of damage. Dismember on the Hal. They turn their attention to the carry, and down he goes. Dindy is indeed godlike. 36-13, wandering through the ice path, looking for another hook. Force staff's out, actually. Rare moment of Dindy not wanting a fight, but the end result gonna be the same nonetheless. Down goes the second melee racks, and GG! Na'Vi getting the job done, my friend. The net worth, 5 of the top 6 in net worth by the time the GG was called. All wearing the yellow and black. And they are on their feet here in Seattle. A standing ovation, well-deserved and well-earned, as Na'Vi takes a phenomenal game 1 on the back of an outstanding performance from their star, Dindy.
Yeah, ever since the hook started landing, they really just never stopped. There were a handful here and there, but the ones that really mattered, he landed every single time. TongFu, from about the 10-minute mark onward, they just didn't have any semblance of map control, even from the very beginning of the game. They went in, they tried to gank Dendy in middle lane. Funnick was there to land an arrow, and there was even a support coming in through Puppies. So they get the first blood, Dendy doesn't die, and then he just snowballs through then on out.
Well, the crowd's still electric here. But we got to throw it back to the desk. Don't worry, guys. Game 2 coming up for now. Let's throw it back to James and the crew and let them break it down.
Yeah, game 2 won't be far away, but what a game 1. Na'Vi that's how you would intimidate your opponent in the upper bracket semi-finals. You turn out with Pudge, straight out of the bat. You hit so many hooks. Unbelievable. It's like, yeah, it's like that's the analysis of the game.
I think that was pretty much the best Pudge game I have ever seen, and I've seen quite a few of Na'Vi now.
And they were just shaking. Like, they could just run away a lot of the times, and they would just try and do these fancy moves and just get hooked every single time. He had some help with the Troll Netter and a little bit of a team, but really it was just a Dendi show. And again, we see this Potom with the Quelling Blade. She just sits around mid and can just arrow them in case. Wow, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's one of those skills. Like, I always feel that there's a couple of heroes that are particularly fun and good in terms of high risk, high reward, just because when they connect with their abilities, they make such a big difference in team fights. And two of them were in this game for Na'Vi. It's Pudge with the hook, and it's also Mirana with the arrow. You hit either one of those, it can change the whole kind of plan that the other team had in terms of how the team fight's going to go. So it's very scary to play against and also judge, and they did their best. Obviously, they did farm up well on the Spectre. Hal was playing it, I believe, unless I'm completely wrong, but wasn't enough.
Yeah, traditionally their lineup is pretty good for counter-initiating too. They can haunt in, they can clockwork hook in, they can vacuum into an ice path. They had so many things that could potentially stop a arrow initiate or hook initiate, but it just never really got to that point.
They just seemed rattled, and whenever their supports really showed, even at tier 2 towers, they would just get hooked by Dendi. I don't think Banana will ever greet Dendi again. I think he hates him. I would. I think I predicted the Pudge pick, by the way, just to toot my own horn, and I'm going to do the easiest prediction of the tournament so far and say that TongFu is going to ban Pudge now, the same way we saw IG do last year. That was the recipe to success, just simply banning the Pudge.
I'm not convinced they're going to ban out Pudge. I think Na'Vi are happy with that one, and they're maybe come up with other ways to play.
I mean, it's always a possibility. When we're talking about Pudge in general, we look at Na'Vi and we say, okay, this hero is really, really good. However, we check out his statistics. We talk about him being 77%. And maybe someone new to the game says, okay, this hero is super overpowered because we just saw how much he dominated. I just want to point out that the rest of the scene combined, all the other players that have played Pudge in pro tournaments have in total 42% win rate with Pudge. That means that you have to be really, really good to actually make this hero work. Is it a hard hero to play, Malk?
No, I find him very easy as well. I'd never get to solo mid.
What about you, Ben?
He's pretty difficult to play, I would say. I mean, they didn't even have a Bane set up like they do normally.
Yep.
Yeah, well, okay, you're asking me if it's hard to play Pudge. Well, it depends if you want to win or lose, either way. I find it easy to click spells, but the outcome's not always fantastic. We have to also mention Kurokai and Puppy. Both of them had over 20 assists, so even though, of course, there was a lot of fighting going on, the whole team was involved, and, you know, Havos, you could just say he had the time of his life in terms of the amount of freedom he had on the map, and just, you know, they could go aggressive. They went high ground without Aegis on him. They were very just comfortable, and it really showed how dominant they were in game one, and also how that's going to affect TongFu, because I don't feel that you would expect that in a game one. Normally, when you come into a pro game as a professional team, you're like, right, this is what we know. This is our standard draft. And if we're better than the other team, which you would assume, you would always think you are, hopefully.